We had a question from Buckley down in Talmo, Georgia, and he said, who are the contenders and pretenders for teams in the playoff? Now, I'm going to take this to mean who can win the national title, Buckley. Really, I always hated in March Madness how someone said, ooh, that team right there, that team could go on a run. What does that mean? Win one game? Win two games? What is a run? Jesse, what would you say a run is? Winning two games in the NCAA tournament? That, to me, is a run. Like, could Florida Gulf Coast go on a run? Yeah, well, I guess they went on a run. So, like if, let's say, Ole Miss, if they win two games, is that a run? No. At least I'm not going to define it that way. So I'm looking at my handy-dandy bracket here. I'm saying how many of these teams can win a national championship? And I've got to tell you, this is going to seem like a really, really cop-out answer, but I think most of them can. To varying degrees of difficulty, most of them can. Here's my thinking behind this. James Madison's not winning the national title. Tulane's not winning the national title. Eliminate them. There are 10 teams on this graphic right here. Oklahoma's got the worst odds of the 10 teams, all the way up to Ohio State having the best odds at FanDuel of the 10 teams. But I think there is at least an outside shot that every one of them could, if things break their way, win the national title because of two things. Number one, we've seen Ohio State bleed. That's the first part. That was the big question. Is Ohio State really just going to continue to look invincible? If so, it's a moot point. Well, they did not continue to look invincible. So Ohio State's mortal. And then also, we are in an era where the best teams are like a touchdown worse than the best teams used to be. It used to be that we got to the end of the year, remember in the 4-team playoff era, and you'd struggle to find a fourth team that could really compete with whoever number one or number two was. That is not the case anymore. The best teams, like Ohio State, let's call them the best team in the country right now. This Ohio State team against the best Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State teams from a decade ago, or this Georgia team versus Georgia teams from even 5 years ago. Those teams from yesteryear are a touchdown plus favorite just because the talent has dispersed itself a little bit further around the country, which means that you have more vulnerability, relatively speaking, from the top teams. So, like if I'm looking up and down the list here, certainly I would still favor Ohio State, just like FanDuel does, but look at Miami. Miami, could they technically win a national title? It would not be the biggest shock to me. They do have the toughest path. Because if you look at the bracket, Miami will have had to go to A&M, and then I'm just going to say probably on all this, they would definitely play Ohio State. And if they get through those two, then you've got Georgia, and then you got like Oregon or Indiana. The trade-off for Miami, if they can survive all that, is they do get to play Oregon or Indiana or whoever comes out of that side of the bracket at home, because the national title game is in Hard Rock Stadium. So Miami would at least have that in their backyard. Defensive line, big potential mismatch here. Carson Beck at his best. He's been in a ton of big games. Probably don't need to score 40 to win with that defense. So, yeah, I could see it. I could see Oregon winning this thing. I think Oregon has the best path of all the playoff teams. I would love to be in Oregon's spot in the bracket. Let me put it that way. More so than any other spot in the bracket. Wide receiver health is key here. Remember also, both of their coordinators took other jobs. Will Stein took the Kentucky job. Tosh Lupoy took the Cal job. Believe they're still coaching, but you've got the split attention that you're having to deal with. And I go back to the health. Like, I don't know how many guys they're getting back, at what level they're getting them back, but just from a pure 50,000-foot talent roster perspective, Oregon is one of the best in the game, and they experienced blowout heartbreak in the playoff last year. How much did they retool themselves to try and peak at the right time? Texas A&M, tough opening round game against Miami. It's a tough path for them because they'll have to go the same route Miami would have to go. Cassius Howell is a big potential game wrecker in this playoff. That several of the biggest game wrecker types defensively in this playoff field play in that Miami A&M game. Wide receiver, specifically the explosivity with like a Mario Craver. He didn't quite look like himself to me down the stretch. I think we all understand very few guys are playing at near 100% down the stretch. So how much did the time off mean to him? How dynamic can Marcel Reed be? He has the potential to be that. They have the potential. They have the most versatile, like Swiss Army knife-ish talent profile of many of these teams, if not all of these teams. Alabama Hey, do me one favor right here. Look down. Are you subscribed to the channel? If you are, thank you. If you're not, please click subscribe. It helps us keep the show free and free of corporate interference. All right, that's it for me. Back to the clip. If you're going by what you saw as of late from them, they are a pretender. The reason that I'm not totally willing to just remove them is because I picked them to win the national title in the preseason, and it's hard for me to let go. And then the second part is, if they had a bunch of guys that were really, really banged up, but really all they needed was 2 weeks, then Alabama can still, beat a lot of teams. I don't know that that's going to be the case. I'm saying I have no way of knowing if it's not. So if Parker Brailsford, for instance, at center is back to 90+%, if they get Jam Miller back, if they're able to utilize the tailback out of the backfield in the passing game, if they're able to scratch out 100, 110 rushing yards, if Ryan Williams reemerges as a big threat, Josh Cuevas, if they get him back for the postseason, going to be close games. They play solid defense. They've been really good in that category. So, yeah, Alabama, if they go on the road and they beat Oklahoma, they're playing Indiana in the second round, you're going to have roster advantages over these teams, or do you have execution advantages? Do you have matchup advantages? That's the big question with them. Oklahoma is just all about defense. Oklahoma's got the worst odds, I just think, because you cannot be bought in on their ability to score. And you're going into a playoff setting where you're asking them to win 1, 2, 3, 4 games where, unless something drastic has changed, you probably need to hold the other guy under 20. Now, that's a challenge that Oklahoma's defense relishes, but still, 1 game versus doing that 4 games, much different thing. Texas Tech is the one I'm kind of morbidly just curious about watching, because the defensive line personnel is there. The takeover, the game-breaking potential is there. I hadn't seen him in a bunch of close games, and you're not blowouting your way through the playoff. So what is their close game DNA when it comes time to prove that? I can't know that. They're top 25 offensively run and pass, so they're balanced enough. They're complementary enough, plenty complementary enough defensively. It's just how do they play when they're not playing Big 12 competition, basically? Because the Big 12 was them and everyone else this year, and now they're playing everyone but the Big 12 in the playoff. Ole Miss, another wild card, but I technically wouldn't eliminate them. I would technically make them a contender. Staff dynamics are everything there. You may have the most draftable quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, out of all the quarterbacks in this postseason. Certainly, Mendoza's the Heisman favorite. Julian Sands looked really good this year. But Marcel Reed, turnover prone. Ty Simpson tailed off significantly at the end of the year. Don't really think you'd look elsewhere. Beck's been up and down. Dante Moore's been up and down. Trinidad Chambliss been mainly up. Indiana, of course, is a contender. Don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on them. In fact, Indiana, Ohio State, and Georgia, all 3, I would say, are contenders. With Georgia, because I don't really need to talk about Indiana and Ohio State. With Georgia, they went in the playoff last year. Remember, Beck got hurt, so Gunnar Stockton had to start, and they got beat by Notre Dame, and that's it. I wonder, out of all the SEC teams, if they really do have the best shot to win it all. They'll have the best odds. Do they have the best shot to win it all? So we're still a week out. We can still ask these questions. We don't have to predict until, I think we're going to start predicting on Sunday.